That's the spirit! Whoa! Get away! Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking101 here, here to review One Piece chapter 933! Holy crap, we're getting close to that 1,000. I know it's a while off, you know, we still got probably over a year until we get there, but we're gonna get to 1,000. What do you think's gonna happen at One Piece chapter 1,000? Because I'm expecting no less than a Yonko showdown. Even if it doesn't make any sense in the context of the series, even if it like we're still in Wano and we're in the middle of like the battle with Kaido, just for one chapter, Shanks' Big Mom gets her memory back, Shanks shows up and freaking Blackbeard arrive at Wano and just scuffle with Kaido for one chapter, and then they just all leave, and they're just like, alright, that was the celebration, back to the actual fight between Kaido and the Straw Hats. But anyway, yeah, so title page this week, pretty cool, we get to see Eneru again, and I know we've all missed that guy. It's actually kind of funny, because Eneru has the tomoe on his back, he's got like the drums in the lieu of his wings, which I don't think that was ever really explained exactly why Eneru was like the only person in the sky that didn't have wings, unless he like ripped them off into, you know, insert those drums, which just seems rather painful, but I don't know if it's going to be explained later. It's kind of interesting that we see him, because one of the ninja, the Oniwaban that we got introduced to 2 chapters ago, also has like the god Raijin's drum tomoe on his back, and we actually get to find out his name in this chapter is in fact Raijin, so god of lightning and thunder, and Eneru is also, you know, god of lightning and thunder, so kind of an interesting parallel there. Now, Eneru himself doesn't seem to be doing anything that important. He's just blowing bubblegum with his frog friends, and they're floating up into the sky. But this, to the untrained eye, this might not seem relevant. It might seem just a dorky little, you know, fan drawing. But you know what? No. This is part of Eneru's multifaceted, at least 69-step plan. I don't know all the steps. All I know is one of them is to take over all of Skypiea. Another one was to build the Maxim. Another one was to get his ass kicked by Luffy. He planned for this. You think he actually got his ass kicked by Luffy? No, he planned that. It's like, I'm planning. He could see so far into the future with his observation hockey, with his mantra. He knew that one day a rubber boy was going to arrive into the sky and beat the crap out of him, and he incorporated that into his master plan. And then he took the Maxim to the moon, met a bunch of automata, and I guess another part of the plan was to head back down to the Earth, recruit a bunch of frogs that have very large lung capacity to blow bubblegum, and then float back up to the moon. So now Eneru has an army of automata and space pirates, because those are a thing. They're foxes. I'm sure Eneru probably enslaved them. And then frogs. Now, I have no idea where Eneru's going with this, but keep your handy-dandy notebooks handy, and we'll fit the clues together, and we'll eventually figure it out. I think it's going to lead into the moon transforming into possibly Unicron or the ancient weapon Uranus, one of the two, a U word, you know? But anyway, getting back to the chapter itself, we continue right where we left off last time with Orochi transforming into his Orochi form, and we find out the name of it. It is the snake fruit, mythical variant, model Yamato no Orochi. Okay, so technically not a dragon. I mean, kind of. Do you consider snakes dragons? I don't know. I consider snakes just snakes, okay? They're not really dragons, but, you know, lizards, you know, fangs, you know, close enough to be a dragon, I guess. Why not, right? So yes, the mythical variants of the fruits that the Boa siblings had. Boa Sandersonia had the anaconda model snake fruit, and I believe Boa Marigold had the king cobra. And they could use those fruits in a variety of ways, too. Remember, Boa Marigold had freaking, like, flaming hair serpents coming at freaking Luffy. That was pretty cool. So I'm interested in seeing what full abilities are capable from Orochi. We really don't get to see him use it in any sort of, like, you know, mythical way, because mythical zones always have, like, on top of transforming into the animal, they also have kind of like a paramecia ability tacked onto that. Like, Marco can turn into a phoenix, he can also summon blue flames to regenerate himself. So, and, you know, Sengoku is a Buddha, giant golden giant. That wasn't a redundant statement, redundant. But yeah, suffice it to say, we don't really get to see the fruit in any any unique way. It's not like he summons fireballs or anything like that. He just, you know, devours people whole and then swallows them. You know, typical snake shit. So we'll probably see what else he can do later on. But for right now, it's possible he might be restraining himself because he is inside of his castle. He's really mad right now, but it's like he still doesn't want to wreck the place he lives in case he is capable of, like, I can, like, spew giant laser beams out of all 8 of my heads. Probably not something that theatrical, but if he does have some kind of, you know, far-reaching large attack, he doesn't want to use that right now. But anyway, suffice it to say, he is mighty pissed right now. Komurasaki, how dare you slap me? I'm a snake now! And each of his heads, I mean, they all basically say the same thing, you know, like, how dare you, you're unforgivable, Komurasaki, it's that kind of stuff, but each of the heads still have, like, a different expression on them. Like, some look really angry, others kind of just look dorky, well, even more dorky than he already is, you know, so some look like rather jovial and happy. So, yeah, Komurasaki, you know, he decides, like, well, yeah, I can't just devour her whole, I want to make her my bride, even if she did slap me. Let's be honest here, he might have been turned on by that a little bit. You know, you got like, what was that, 20 years of everyone just bowing before him and treating him like a straight up god, and Komurasaki is like the one person to be like, screw that, I don't care who you are, you don't attack a child, bam! And maybe that like, ooh, okay, well, I can't devour you because okay, fine, if you bow before me, I'll consider letting you go. But Komurasaki, like she said in the last chapter, man, she don't bow to no one. And she even kind of brings this up to him. She's like, oh, you have some lingering affections for me. Because, you know, like 2 seconds ago, he was like, I'm gonna devour you, roar! I guess he was hoping that when he transformed right in front of her, she was going to be fazed by that. She was gonna be like, oh no, please, my Lord Shogun Snake God, please don't hurt me. But she did not falter. She didn't even step back. It's just like, roar, right in front of her, and she's just like she don't give up. You know, she's like, lingering affections for me. Well, I already told you, I bow to no one. And at this point, you know, Orochi doesn't know how to process this, you know? He's just like, yeah, well, okay then, fine! And then he attacks other people in the room, because the banquet hall is, like last chapter, mass chaos right now. Like, nobody's having fun at this point. You know, people are running away, trying to get out of there as soon as Orochi pulled the giant snake card, you know? Then the ninjas bust in to try to capture Robin, so you also have the ninjas doing their thing, so everyone's just trying to, you know, get out of there, and Orochi just starts devouring people whole, just starts swallowing them. I think either 2 reasons he's doing this. Number one, just because he's so mad right now, he doesn't know what, he's not thinking straight, and he's like, well, I can't attack you, so screw it! No, you just ate the minister! The minister of coin! He's like, doesn't matter, I'll get another one, it doesn't matter. So he's just, you know, these are really important people that are hanging out in the banquet hall that he's just like gobbling down on. And they're all like, well, why did you attack over here? And another reason why he's doing it is, I'm thinking he might also still be trying to intimidate Komurasaki. He's like, okay, well, transforming into the giant snake in front of you didn't change your mind. Well, what if I show you what I can do? I can devour all these people whole. Might cause a little bit of indigestion later, but that's worth it to have you as my wife, Komurasaki. So, this also doesn't do anything, is she's still standing right where she is. So at this point, Orochi's like, you know what, screw this, and just grabs her. He doesn't eat her, doesn't like swallow her whole like everybody else, but he just kind of grabs her in his jaw, and I'm assuming he's not pressing down that hard, just enough to kind of pick her up, and, you know, for her to writhe around, and everyone's freaking out. Toko is screaming. Toko is asking Robin to save her, and Robin's like, you know, I would love to, but I'm not sure I could, and also, I'm gonna have a hard enough time getting you out of here, and you're the one that started all of this, you know, so Robin's like, I'm gonna focus on trying to get you to safety, you know, I'm sorry about, you know, Toko says that Komurasaki is her sister. Don't take that literally, though, because it's just like Nissan, or you know, like Nisama, it's this like a thing in Japan, you know, just referring to like older people that are like maybe your benefactors as like, you know, big sister, big brother, that sort of thing, so think of it more like that in Toko's case. They're not actually related. Because if that was the implication, then, and if Komurasaki really is Lady Hiyori, then that would imply that, let's not go with that. That doesn't make any sense. She meant it in the honorific way. But even so, she still cares very much for Komurasaki. She defended her when Orochi was about to attack her, so she doesn't want her to get hurt. Now, the ninjas are on the scene, right? And the ninjas, you know, it's not like they don't care that Orochi's on his rampage. Even some of the other guests are, like, shouting over to the ninja. Like, yeah, Daikoku! We find out a few of the names of the ninjas in this chapter. Not all of them, but like I think we find out like 3 of them. So one of the ninjas is named Daikoku. Is like, Daikoku-sama, what are you doing? You have to go and stop Orochi so he can drop the courtesan. You know, she's gonna be devoured. And Daikoku is just like, the shogun is a free man. No, none can bind him. Okay, I guess they really don't care. You know, they're more concerned about Robin, so they're in the middle of their own little fight, you know, right now, and they're taking on her, and everyone's like, oh, Robbie was an intruder? Well, I guess we never saw her before, so I guess that makes sense, but still, she was so trustworthy, and she smelled like flowers. How could she be an intruder, right? The girl that we saw earlier that had the flowers in her hair, she's there, and she's about to confront Robin when there's like this just commotion coming from behind them in the banquet hall, like even more so, you know, because people are running around already, you know, plates and tables are getting knocked over, so much wasted sake at this banquet hall, but there's even a bigger commotion coming from behind her. Fujin and Raijin, who are 2 other ninjas, are being chased by a spooky ghost, who is in fact Brook. And it's funny because I don't think, you know, looking at this, I originally thought Brook was in just his normal form and just chasing them, but he has the spooky, like, will-o-wisps around him. But the thing is, whenever Brook goes into his soul form, I do have an electric guitar. I need to get that thing tuned and bring it down here, and then every time I say soul and Brook in the same sentence, I have to, like, you know, strum the guitar. But anyway, normally when we see him in his soul form, he's just like a wispy kotodama. You see his face and like a cloud of just greenish gas, and then he just floats around doing that. Here, he has his full body, all right, but he still has like the will-o-wisps around him, so I don't know if it's just like an artistic choice on Oda's part. You know, he's depicting, you know, the way Fujin and Raijin see Brook is this vengeful spirit, or maybe he learned how to control his Yomi Yomi no Mi powers a little bit better, so now he can exhibit some of his ghostly traits even if he's not in his ghost form, because he's still wearing his clothes and he still has, you can still see his bones and things, so I don't think it's like he's the spirit. I think it's just maybe artistic, you know, interpretation of the way Fujin and Raijin are viewing Brook, like this scary ghost coming back from the dead. They call him the starving skeleton. That's the reputation Brook has achieved in the country of Wano, you know, creeping people out along the side of the roads in the middle of the night by the cemeteries, you know. Oh, yo ho ho, would you like to hear a rock concert? Oh god, no, now I'm doing the Orochi voice for Brook. We gotta scale that back a little bit, okay. But yeah, so they're freaked out. Now, Fujin and Raijin, these are 2 ninjas, one of which was the guy that was riding on the giant wish cash, the giant catfish, which, by the way, I made a little bit of a mistake with him. When we first saw that dude at when he was confronting Robin 2 chapters ago, I thought like part of his leg was merged with the catfish. It wasn't the case. He was just like riding on it. He was like kneeling on the catfish, and I couldn't see his foot. So it doesn't have anything to do with a devil fruit. It just happens to be, I guess, a unique species of catfish in Wano. Might be related to the giant koi that were, you know, swimming up that waterfall, that just are capable of living on land. Not just living on land, they can also like swim on land because they can get around and stuff. But anyway, yeah, Fujin and Raijin. So these are characters that are named after deities. Fujin is the wind god, and then Raijin is the thunder and lightning god. And like a lot of gods in Japanese mythology, they were created by Izanami and Izanagi, the creator gods of all of Japan. And we don't get specific names like which is which, but considering that Fujin is a god that has like a cloth draped over him, you know, like who, and then Raijin is the dude that has the drums with the tomoe patterns on them, you can determine pretty easily which is which. Also, Fujin and Raijin, they're kind of like the Zoro and the Sanji of the Japanese pantheon. Not really a pantheon, but you know what I mean, where they're like rivals, they like challenge each other constantly and stuff. They're usually depicted together whenever you get to see them in artwork, you know. It's like, hey, Fujin, you blowhard, come over here, round 26. It's like, yeah, Raijin, you Lightning face, bring it on! Lightning face isn't really an insult. Fujin wasn't really good at insults as good as Raijin was. Lightning face is more of a compliment, if anything. Also, weird thing about Raijin, and this just makes Japanese mythology one of the weirder ones. Okay, so when there was like thunderstorms going around, parents would tell their children, make sure to cover up your navel, because Raijin likes to just take a big chunk out of children's navels or their abdomens whenever they're exposed, whenever the thunder shakes the land. So next time there's a thunderstorm in your area, make sure, gotta cover up your navels, you know, because, you know, they could be stolen by the thunder deity. I'm not sure what he does with them, but you want to make sure your belly button doesn't get stolen, you know? But anyway, yeah, so they're being chased, and as was pretty much brought to attention last chapter, the ninjas also have no idea what devil fruits are. I was curious about this because I could understand the regular citizens not knowing what devil fruits are, but these are members of Orochi's, like, you know, like shogunate, like his close personal guard. You know, you think that if anybody in Wano would know about devil fruits and their powers, it would be these people at the very tip top, because they work so closely with Kaido and the Beast Pirates, right? And people said, well, maybe even Kaido didn't tell, maybe the Shogun doesn't even know what devil fruits are, and Kaido just kept all that a secret so that Kaido could be viewed as a straight-up dragon god. Maybe even if the Shogun learned about the truth of devil fruits and everything, he wouldn't view it in the same way, or the other people wouldn't be as afraid of Kaido. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter if he's a god or not. He could turn into a dragon, so, you know, like, it doesn't really matter if you're truly a deity at that point. You're still a dragon, and you could still level a mountain with just your breath, so, you know. But that's probably the case. If any case, they think that Robin has some sort of ninjutsu power with her Hana Hana no Mi, and they take one look at Brook and they just instantly assume he's the ghost of the damned, come back to drag them down to the netherworld. So, yeah, that's the situation. They're pretty scared. The girl with the flowers in her hair, we don't find out her name in this chapter, but she's terrified of it as well, and they all just, basically like a Benny Hill routine, just like da-da-da-da-da-da-da, they just start running around the banquet hall. Brook's not really doing anything to attack them. He's really more of just a distraction at this point, so Robin can get out of there. So, you know, he's just chasing them around the hall like, ooh, I'm a spooky ghost! And, yeah. So, now we cut back to the attic, you know, above the ceiling where Shinobu and Nami are situated, and they're looking down and they're like, oh, Robin's there, now Brook's there, this is insane. So they're like, you know, there's no point in hiding anymore. The banquet hall is already in absolute chaos. You know, there's giant snakes devouring people, all the samurai are getting, you know, ready to attack, you got the ninjas, you got Robin, you got Brook going around. So it's like, let's just go. So at this point, another one of the ninjas, a ninja by the name of Hanzo. Hanzo is the larger ninja, the really big dude with the face mask, you can only see his eyes, and he was the one that was like creeping out of the ceiling when we first saw the Oniwaban, the larger dude. He's in the ceiling as well, and it's this funny scene where he's just walking. Actually, he gets a pretty good view of Nami's butt, if we're being honest. You're looking at this panel, because Nami has a pretty damn short, you know, ninja kunoichi outfit. That's what Kinemon gave her, and she's like kneeling down because she's in an attic, and Shinobu's in front of her, and she's talking to Shinobu, so her butt is right there, and Hanzo just kind of creeps up behind them. But he doesn't notice Nami's perfect butt. No, instead he notices Shinobu, and he's like dumbfounded by this. Hanzo's like, wait a second, you're Shinobu? The same Shinobu that back in the days of old was considered the man killer? You know, like not man killer, like, but like, you know, like, oh, her beauty is well known throughout the land. One look at her and just men fall before her, you know, basically like Nami and Robin right now. And we actually get to see an image of Shinobu when she was younger, and yeah, she looks pretty fine. You know, going back to the whole thing with the biological clock that Oda likes to do with the female characters, you know, here's Jola, member of the Doflamingo family at age 45. You know, still got the hourglass figure going on, and here's Jola at age 51 6 years later. More, you know, closer to what she is when the Straw Hats, you know, fight against her, right? And so it's like, there's somewhere in that, you know, the late 40s when that just, bam, just hits you. And, yeah, so that's the case with Shinobu. She's probably like in her late 40s, early 50s, something like that, right? And so, you know, Hanzo's like, you're the enchanting kunoichi, the man killer, Shinobu! And Shinobu's like, huh, well, thank you for noticing. Yes, I am, in fact, that same Shinobu. And Hanzo takes one, he looks at her a little bit better, and is like, actually, wait, no, you're not. Sorry, I was mistaken. Just keep on your business. It's a funny scene, because they're hanging out in the ceiling, and obviously Nami and Shinobu are not supposed to be there. Hanzo's just, like, walking by, and he's like, excuse me, ma'am, are you that Shinobu, the same Shinobu that was the man killer, is the seductive kunoichi of old? And why, yes, in fact, I am. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're not. I mistook you for somebody else. Okay, carry on, ladies. Wait a second. Are you supposed to be hanging out in this attic spying on our Shogun? I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't really matter because he doesn't get the chance to, because Shinobu busts out the most terrifying technique in all of One Piece. Like, seriously, I don't care what other, like, even the ancient weapons pale in comparison to this one. You know, Pluton, wiping out an entire island, giant battleship, you know, Shirahoshi, who's Poseidon, that could summon an entire army of sea dragon leviathans to wreck the entire world. What else? You know, freaking, Eneru's attacks that he just, like, Death Pia and all that, all these really high-octane abilities. You know, Akainu's magma pales in comparison to Ninja Art! Ball Crusher! That needs to be like a special ability in, that needs to be like Robin's special ability in like World Seeker or something. They have this really theatrical, like, over-the-top scene where it's like, you know, you charge up Robin's meter all the way and just like, ultimate attack! And then she uses the attack that she used on Frankie back at Water 7. So yeah, Robin was the originator of this technique, but Shinobu pulls it off rather admirably as well. So, yeah, and Nami, of course, is in the background like, is that even ninjutsu? I'm like, well, did you make hand signs? That's basically the rule of thumb with ninjutsu. Next time you're hanging out at a bar or something and there's a rowdy asshole, you know, making a scene and you're, I'm gonna get into a bar fight with him, you basically just go up and be like, just do this and be like, boom, and then just punch him in the nose. I'm like, this makes it ninjutsu, all right? All you gotta do is learn your different ninja signs and you're good to go, right? So anyway, she does manage to paralyze him because after the fact, after she uses Ball Crusher, boom, she also uses Ninja Art Paralysis, which does cause him to not move. And that's in fact the joke, where it's not really ninjutsu. It's like, you know, she uses Ball Crusher because she's mad at Hanzo, and then Nami's like, is that really ninjutsu? And she's like, oh, Ninja Art Paralysis, and of course he can't move because he just got his balls crushed. So yeah, and then she activates another ability. This time it's not just standard ninjutsu, it's sexy ninjutsu. Keep in mind Oda and Kishimoto, they were pals. They were rivals in their respective manga back in the day. So I want to know if Kishi's reading this chapter. You know, he's reading all this ninja stuff and he's like, ah, Oda, you old bastard. Yeah, bringing back the sexy technique. So it's not the exact same sexy technique that Naruto did. You know, Shinobu doesn't turn back into her sexy self in her early 20s. No. Although we're probably going to get a flashback arc at some point focusing on like what was up 20 years ago with Kinemon. Remember, Shinobu was Kinemon's disciple, so we're probably going to get something like that, and we'll get to see what she actually looked like in proper, you know, full body back then. So mark your calendars for that. I'm expecting that. But also here we have the sexy ninja art Dry Garden. I'm not exactly sure what rotting away a bunch of wood, causing it to turn into dust and crash down on a giant snake, an 8-headed snake, mind you, has anything to do with sexiness, but you could probably draw a few parallels to marriage or something. I don't know. Anyway, the ceiling crashes down right on top of Orochi. Remember, Shinobu has the power of the mature no mi. Basically, any inanimate object she touches ages gradually, and so she did it on the ceiling. She's just like, screw this, we gotta get out of here. Touches the wood of the ceiling, the whole thing just breaks apart in dust and splinters, and they all fall down on top of Orochi. But remember, Orochi's got 8 heads, so even if they crushed a few of them, there's still a few heads that are still around and writhing and conscious. Brook sees Nami, and he's like, "Ooh, spooky ghost! Oh, hi-oh, Nami! Can I curse you?" And Nami's just like, "Nah, Brook, I'm good. I'm just here for support, honestly. You know, if you guys need help, I'll give it to you, but for right now, I'm just gonna stay back here." So, while all this is going on, we cut back over to Kyoshiro. remember, last chapter, Kyoshiro, he got up after drinking and after the whole chaos started happening, and he pulled out his sword, and he's like, whoa, things are going to get a little intense from here on out. Now, we were curious of what that meant. Was he going to save Komurasaki? It seems to imply that the two were a couple, or at least they're together. They had a better relationship than, you know, between Komurasaki's other clients. You know, she was under the employ of Kyoshiro. So people thought, oh, well, he's going to walk up to Orochi and you know, cut him down, or you maybe like threaten him or something to save her. But no, it's the opposite. You know, he goes over to Komurasaki, who's, you know, on the ground now. Orochi lets her go after Shinobu Nami crashed down. She pops out of Orochi's mouth, and Kyoshiro just walks over to her on the ground and he's like, "Are you prepared to accept your punishment, Komurasaki?" And without missing a beat, she's like, "Yes, I am." And Kyoshiro, shing, cuts her down with one swing of his sword. He moves right behind her, like, super fast, and blood just sprays out of her kimono, and I'm sure very dramatic music plays in the background, you know. And then, boom, she crashes to the ground, and everyone in the banquet hall is just like, no! No! She was the perfect courtesan! Komurasaki, no! Kyoshiro, why? And Kyoshiro, well, Orochi comes up, and Orochi's like, who told you to do that, Kyoshiro? You know, people, even other samurai are like, you know, would you really take your loyalty that far? You know, all the other stuff. All the other crap that Orochi has asked us to do in the last 20 years, you know, subjugating the townsfolk, making them eat trash, starving them basically, wrecking villages to the point where they're just ghost towns, polluting the natural beauty of our island. All the crap that we've done in the last 20 years, you probably have at least the blood of thousands of people on your swords respectively. But slicing down the courtesan, the hottest lady in all of Wano, that's taking it too far. Dang it. But don't feel too bad, because I don't think this is the end of Komurasaki. I have this weird feeling that Oda would not just introduce this character to be sliced down and killed like 6 chapters later. Okay, so here's the deal. Kyoshiro explains to Orochi, he's like, it's a samurai's mercy, and that's the title of the chapter, because it's like, you know, oh, we could have her be killed in a very a grisly fashion, you know, he doesn't specify, but like being devoured by a giant snake. I think that's pretty much, that's not the best way to go, you know how snakes devour their food, right? You understand, like, a snake does not just kill the prey first and then devour it, you know, maybe in some cases, but usually it's like, you know, bites the prey, injects the venom, prey can't move, and then, you know, gets into the snake's body, and then the digestive fluid takes it away from there, but, and the prey is paralyzed because of the venom, but they're still very much alive when they're inside the snake, so not a great way to die there, not a great way to get capped off there. So, the way that Kyoshiro is explaining it to Orochi, like, this is a samurai's mercy to end her life quickly, and also, he pulls out this. He pulls out the symbol of the rebellion, the thing that, you know, Kinemon is passing out, the symbol of the cranes and the crescent moon and everything. And we don't know where he got that. That's the thing. You can view this in a number of different ways. You can view it like Komurasaki had this on her person, and she was a member of the rebellion, and Kyoshiro is still very steadfastly loyal to Orochi, and when he sliced down Komurasaki, he took this out, he found this, and he's like, see, she was a member of the rebellion, she was going to fight against you. Or, second option, Kyoshiro had this on him, and he is actually a member of the rebellion, and he's actually going to help out the Kozuki clan, and Komurasaki and him are on this. You know, they're in this together, and so he faked her death. Maybe they hid some sort of thing, because she's wearing a really big kimono. Like, you could hide, like, a blood pack in that or something. Like, it's not impossible. I'm just saying. It's not impossible to hide something inside of that kimono that would explode when you cut it. You know, so maybe. And, because I don't think Komurasaki's not dead. She's not freaking dead. I mean, Oda went through such a big deal introducing her. We had an entire chapter just building her up. Even if she's not Hiyori, even if she's not the lost sister of Momo, why would he go through so much trouble to introduce this character and just immediately kill her off? So she's not dead. And I don't think Kyoshiro, I'm like, Kyoshiro, you know, we haven't seen that much of him yet. I can't really get a good read on his character, but it does seem a little odd that he seemed to have this really close relationship to Komurasaki. He's talking about how he doesn't like the Shogun and everything. You know, granted he's the head of a Yakuza, but he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that just be like, all right, so Komurasaki offended the Shogun, I immediately have to cut her down. He doesn't seem to be like that, so loyal to the Shogun, or he would be willing to fake it that far, you know, to cut her down, you know. So yeah, I think they're in on this together. They're both members of the rebellion, and they're gonna, you know, fake her death so that she could sneak away, and maybe she could help out the rebellion in her own way. Maybe she could beat back up with Momo, and Kyoshiro still is very loyal to Orochi. Hell, at this point, I mean, Orochi isn't happy with what happened, but you can't, like, at this point, Kyoshiro's loyalty can definitely not be questioned. He saw someone disrespect the Shogun, even though it was someone highly respected in the land of Wano, the most beautiful woman in all of Wano. That didn't matter to Kyoshiro. He's like, someone insulted the Shogun? That's how it works. That's how it is. And that's how you trained us, right, Orochi? You taught us, you know, Shogun Orochi. Anyone disrespects him, doesn't matter, man, woman, child, elderly, cut him down. And that's what I did. And so Orochi might be pissed, but he's like, yeah, well, Kyoshiro, I guess I can't be mad at you, but still, why? Komurasaki! But, hey, this is a good way to build up your loyalty, and I think he was planning on this. I think they both were planning on maybe something like this going down. If they had to fake the death, they would have already rehearsed this a little bit. So as recompense for that, Orochi decides to take all of his rage out on Toko. He's crying at the death of his lovely, you know, bride-to-be. He looks over at Otoko, who's Robin's holding, and he's like, you child, you're the one that started all of this! You know, it's all because you laughed as I had to turn into a giant serpent and try to attack my bride-to-be, and she had to be sliced down by Kyoshiro. You will pay! So he goes after her. The ninjas are starting to wise up to the fact that Brook is not really a threat here, because they just start, after running around the banquet hall like 3 or 4 times, they're like, okay, wait a second, Ghost isn't actually doing anything. He's not dragging us down to hell, most certainly. Yeah, he's just kind of chasing us around being spooky, you know, so they're starting to figure out the trick there. And at this point, you also have some other members of Orochi's, like, shogunate arriving on the scene. These are, like, maybe these might be more of his private guards, private samurai, because they're dressed differently. They're not ninjas. They're dressed more like samurai, and they're walking in. They have very prestigious, like, outfits on, and they're like, oh, we must, I think these are the guys that are responsible for dealing with Orochi's fits, because you know this isn't the first time it's happened. You know it's not the first time Orochi has went ballistic over something trivial like a child laughing, and he's wrecked the entire castle. So it's probably these guys' jobs to make sure, you know, he doesn't demolish the entire place, you know. And so they walk in and they're like, you know, there's an incident in the chambers. Capture the invaders, vanquish the spirit, and calm Orochi, stop his rampage. So that's their job. So they wander in. At the same time this is going on, as soon as they walk in, they weren't expecting this. They charge in. They're like, we must stop the... Oh boy. They get met with a blinding flash of light because not Robin, Nami takes out her climb attack at this point, summons Zeus, he pops out and just like, oh hey Nami, how you doing? Like, they're best buds now. They're like, how you doing? You want me to give you a weather ball? And she's like, oh well, that would be great, Zeus. Zeus is like Nami's like private like talking inventory now. You know, before Nami had to like summon the weather balls individually, and it's basically the same thing except now it's like a shopkeeper, you know, like she activates her climb attack, pushes the button, Zeus pops out like, hi Nami, could I interest you in a lightning, you know, weather orb today? And it's like, yes Zeus, that would be amazing. Also, if you can mix in a cool ball and a heat orb, you know, oh okay, I can maybe throw something together for you. You know, Zeus and Nami, best friends. And because Nami is, you know, following in Shinobu's footsteps, and of course she is a kunoichi as well, of course you could tell from the outfit, she uses ninja art, thunderstorm, and she's like, everybody get down! And she just brings down the freaking hammer of Thor, and just boom. And so as soon as the like the private guard of Orochi barge in, they're like, we must stop this. Oh no. Like, just a huge explosion there, and we don't really know what happens. We cut to an outside shot of the castle, and we just see the lightning like shooting out from it. Like, I'm sure the windows and the doors all got blown out, and just boom, big thunderous explosion all over Wano. You know, all the children will be protecting their navels now from the might of Raijin, the thunder god. But this is rather kind of an interesting segue. At a time like this, you would expect Oda to be like, okay, while that's going on with the castle, let's cut over to Ebisu Town, or let's cut over to Amagasa, or let's cut over to see what Luffy's up to at the prison. No, we cut to the next morning. So, giant explosion. And it's like, all right, let's cut to, like, I don't know, 12 hours later or whatever. So we're now in Okabore Town, you know, in Curry, you know, where Suru and everybody are at, you know, where we started off the arc, and we now have Chopper hanging out with Big Mom. Chopper and Big Mom, best friends, I guess, because they're at Okabore, and Mama, who is now O-Lin, because Charlotte Linlin, so O-Lin, and they give her a little bit of food at Okabore. Obviously, they don't have very much of it. Even the food that they got from the treasure ship isn't going to last forever, so they give her a little bit of food, and Big Mom is really kind and polite. You know, she's basically what I figured. I made a video about this last week. I talked about how, like, you know, she's probably just going to mentally regress back to like a child, you know, 5, 6 years old, and that's basically what happens. Yeah. So she's like, oh, I'm so hungry, but you're so poor, and yet you gave me food anyway. You know, that was really nice. Thank you, Miss Osuru. And she's like, thank you. Oh, Lin, you're such a nice girl. So, yeah, for sure. I'm getting parallels here to, like, Mother Caramel back in the day. Like, oh, you know, Lin is such a nice girl. Yeah, it's only a matter of time. This is a ticking time bomb here, and even Chopper brings it up. He's like, oh, are we really gonna go? He says, are we really gonna go? So I'm assuming he means, are we really gonna go to the capital? I'm assuming that's where they're going. Are we really gonna go to the capital? Because she regains her memories, or not even regains her memories. If she has another hunger pang attack while she's in the capital, even if she doesn't get back her memories, that's still not a good thing, right? So, the end of the chapter, Big Mom is just talking to Chopper about, you know, like, all the food, you know, like, udon, you know, what is udon and what's in there, and do they have this, like, bean paste and everything? She's just talking about food to Chopper, and we get to see her expression, and, yeah, it's, oh, how do I even, like... That's her expression, you know? Okay, so just picture that on Big Mom and you're set to go. We also get to see Napoleon, and Napoleon is like, it seems like he's dormant or he's asleep. And it's weird because when Big Mom washed ashore and she woke up, Napoleon, his eyes were opening too, and his eyes were just like, huh, what's going on? So I didn't know if Napoleon lost his memories as well, or if, you know, he remembered who Big Mom was and he would remind her, but clearly that doesn't seem to be the case, and here he seems to be dormant. So maybe it's like Big Mom doesn't know how to use her soul powers anymore. Maybe she doesn't even know she has them, and because she's lost the knowledge, you know, Napoleon can't activate. He can't, you know, use himself. He can't talk to her or explain, like, you're Big Mom, or maybe he lost his memories too. Who knows? But anyway, chapter ends with a little caption explaining that 9 days until the final battle. So 9 days. 9 days. That... I'm seemingly having a bit of deja vu here. What? Oh, I remember what it was. Do you guys remember back in Bleach, during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, when Yuha came out and Yuha was just like, you know, like, Uryu, there is a limerick to that, you know, 900 years to regain his form, 90 years to regain his intelligence, 9 years to regain his power, and 9 days to conquer the world. And we're all sitting there like, oh god, Kubo. 9 days, yeah, we're gonna be here a while. And that never really panned out, by the way, either. The whole 9-day thing, that didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, here I think Oda could maybe handle it a little bit better, especially if he did the same thing he did in this chapter, where it's like, okay, you know, the night passes without event, we could just skip to the next day, and then we see what's happening on the next day. So it's yeah, to suffice it to say, it's still going to be a little while, unless something happens where all of the Straw Hats, you know, maybe have to lay low for multiple days. Like, okay, we have to make sure we stay hidden in this, like, old ramshackled shack for 3 days. And Oda's just like, okay, 3 days pass without event. They're just staying there and building up their forces and finalizing the battle plan and whatever. 3 days go by, who cares? And then final battle time. He might do something like that, but it's not going to be immediate. You know, I'm even dubious to say if the final battle will start this year.
You know, I like to think it will. Let me say it will. Maybe later on in the fall, we'll finally get to the moment when the battle actually begins. Like, the raid on Onigashima begins now! You know, that moment, maybe by the end of this year, hopefully. Because especially if we're going to cut acts, like if we're going to do another act break at some point before the actual final battle gets started, we're going to have to do another chapter where we cut over to Reverie or see what's going on with Whitebeard. Not Whitebeard. Whitebeard's dead! Matt, if we cut over to see what's going on with Whitebeard, we're cutting into, like, a coffin. That would be interesting, though, at the same time. Like, it's like, meanwhile, over at Sphinx Island, we catch up with Whitebeard. And Oda just shows his skeleton rotting in the ground. It's like, okay, well, we caught up with what's going on with him. But Blackbeard, I meant, you know, go see what's going on with Blackbeard and Moria or something, right? So, yeah, good chapter. Really, a lot of action. Got to see Orochi's, got to see what devil fruit he has. It's the snake fruit. Got to see Shinobu as a hot young ninja kunoichi. We got to see Nami bust out. I mean, hey, maybe Nami just wiped out Orochi. Maybe Nami just took him out right there. You know, she, boom, brought down Divine Judgment right on top of him, and he just isn't making it out there. Or maybe she gravely wounded him or something. I don't know. And then at the end of the chapter, we see Big Mom hanging out. She still hasn't regained her memories. I've seen people say on like the comments of the chapter that, hey, when it comes to regaining memories, things like smells and tastes are closely related to that. So if she ends up eating something that she remembers, granted Wano has very different, you know, cuisine than Totland, but if she were to eat like a wedding cake, for instance, that might trigger it, you know, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, for right now that's the case, and also the whole thing with Kyoshiro and Komurasaki, but I don't think she's dead, you know, I think she's still alive. They're just working. They're in cahoots, so to speak, to take down the Shogun. And, you know, because Kyoshiro has also specified before that he thinks the Shogun is a coward behind the scenes. He's just playing the field, making sure that he thinks that he's loyal, when in fact honestly, Kyoshiro looks like the kind of guy that's like the sinister advisor of the king that wants to take over the place, you know, kind of like that. So, we'll see. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Woo!